A long time ago, April 10th, 1955, in a land far, far away, Miami Beach, Florida, I was born. I had swollen hands and feet and this weird extra skin on the back of my head. They suspected Turner syndrome right away, but I was not officially diagnosed until I was about 6. Turner syndrome is a chromosomal condition that affects approximately 1 in 2,000 females, typically causing short stature and infertility. It is a fluke that occurs at conception or shortly thereafter, where some of the 2X chromosomes are either missing or partially missing. It can get a lot more complicated than that, but that's TS 101. The fact that I was born at all is amazing. 98% of conceptions with this genetic condition do not make it to term. I have also been fortunate that I have not had to deal with some of the more serious medical issues with the heart and thyroid associated with Turner syndrome. I do deal with infertility, hearing loss, and osteoporosis. I also have many of the physical characteristics such as a horseshoe-shaped kidney, high-arched palate, low hairline, and lots of moles. Most problematic is short stature. I am 4 foot 4 inches tall, which is short by even Turner syndrome standards. I've had to make adaptations to my car, my kitchen, and my bathroom. In addition to some of the medical and physical issues that accompany Turner syndrome, there are also some related psychosocial issues and nonverbal learning disorder, NVLD, which makes tasks such as driving more challenging. Turner syndrome is not the best deal, but it has not kept me from living a very full, independent life. My philosophy has always been, if life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Professionally, I have a master's degree in computer science, and I recently retired from a 40-year career as a business application software developer. My various jobs sent me to Philadelphia, Overland Park near Kansas City, Atlanta, and Raleigh. My childhood dream of being an entertainer came true when I was in undergrad school in Central Florida. On the weekends and summer, I worked at Disney World as Mickey and Minnie Mouse. In my 30s and 40s, I was active in community theater, especially children's theater. I played such roles as an elf, a dwarf, a mole, an alien, a matchmaker, and a wicked witch. It was a lot of fun. I never married, but I have dated all 7 dwarfs, not to mention numerous frogs. A long story for another time. When I was a child, when I complained about being half the size of everyone else my age, a lot of very well-meaning adults told me, "Don't worry, you'll grow." The growth hormone that was available at that time was from cadavers and was not recommended. I started estrogen hormone replacement therapy when I was 10, but never heard the words Turner syndrome until I listened in on a phone conversation between my mother and endocrinologist. I was 15 at the time. At that point, it did not shock me that I could not have children. What occurred to me was that if there's a name for this condition, there must be others with the same thing. I wondered where they were. It wasn't until I was 29 that I met another person with Turner syndrome. I was 33 when the Turner Syndrome Society of the United States was started, and I have been a zealous member ever since. For more than 3 decades, I have been an active and integral part of the society at both the national and local level. I served as president from 2006 to 2007. I was even a part-time contracted staff member for a while. I am also involved in a separate TS support group in North Carolina. The reason I am so passionate about these support groups is because there wasn't a support group for me and my parents when I was growing up. I didn't have the chance to meet other girls like me. My mother didn't have the chance to talk to other parents and discuss her concerns. She had no idea what questions to ask the doctors. She had no idea what to tell me and when. The time, effort, and energy all seemed worthwhile when I watched the girls with Turner syndrome at our annual conferences enjoying themselves and bonding and laughing with each other. It all seems worthwhile when I have the chance to encourage parents when they first find out that their daughter has Turner syndrome. It all seems worthwhile when I think of all the wonderful people I have had the opportunity to know.
Good morning. Lead with gratitude. The air in your lungs, the sky above you. Proceed from there. I believe it is best to start with grateful. I am grateful for my family and my husband. I have a very close-knit family. Family is very important to me. My husband, my mom, my grandma, my brother and sister-in-law and nephews, my uncles and aunts. My family means everything to me. Having a strong support system is very important when facing difficult times. I have had my struggles with my Turner syndrome recently. This past June, I underwent heart surgery. Heart problems can be common with Turner syndrome. I feel grateful for the doctors who were able to see what was going on with my heart. My aortic valve is very leaky. Bloop, 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 causing my heart to enlarge. My aorta was also dilated, which the doctors could see on my echocardiogram. I feel grateful that I never felt any symptoms. My mom and her husband and my husband all came along with me when I had the consultation with the cardiac surgeon. They were able to ask questions like, what are the pros and cons of a mechanical valve? The surgeon asked if I was planning to pursue pregnancy, which would be a difficult process with my Turner syndrome. However, my husband and I plan to pursue adoption. We also discussed the risks of surgery. The surgeon was very reassuring. The COVID-19 pandemic greatly impacted preparing for my surgery. One of my preoperative appointments was even done over the phone. When I had to go in for my preoperative testing, MRI, echocardiogram, EKG, COVID tests, and blood and urine tests, no one was allowed to come with me. My husband, who drove me to the hospital for my appointments, spent 6 hours sitting in his car in the parking lot waiting for me. When I went to the hospital on the day of surgery, no one was allowed to come with me. After 6 hours of preoperative appointments, I spent 6 days in the hospital waiting after surgery and was not allowed any visitors. I depended on FaceTime to communicate with my family, especially my husband, my mom, and grandma. It was scary and overwhelming to be alone in the hospital. I am extremely grateful for FaceTime. There was so much going on in the world politically, such as the Black Lives Matter protest. And of course, my family was worried about me and wanted to be able to be with me in the hospital. I remember being so excited to go home and continue recovering there. I am grateful that I feel much better now and am recovered. Tick, 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 tick. I am grateful to be able to return to work as a preschool teacher. My career is very rewarding. My students are at such an adorable and impressionable age. I truly believe that my students and their generation are the foundation for our future. My students are very smart and say the most adorable things. Simply seeing a huge smile on my students' face can make my day. I was very happy to see my students and coworkers again. I am happy to be back to my routine of going to work in karate. Yeah. Karate helps my mental health as much as my physical health. I am a brown belt currently, and I am very proud of my accomplishments as a martial artist. I know that a lot of people are going through difficult times right now because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I like to try and focus on the positives. I am extremely grateful to have a strong support system, a job, a safe place to live, that my husband has a job for health insurance, and that we have enough money and food, which are luxuries not everyone has, particularly during the pandemic. Good night. Curl up with gratitude. For the ground beneath you, your beating heart. Proceed from there. I believe it is best to begin with gratitude.
I was diagnosed with Turner syndrome at the age of 19. I am currently volunteering for the Turner Syndrome Foundation as a blog post editor. In my real life, I am an editor and language analyst for the federal government. Turner syndrome has presented many challenges over the years, mostly as I became older and various health issues cropped up. I have always believed in self-advocacy and educating my medical providers. It is so important that Turner syndrome patients, especially adults, have ongoing care and support. One of my biggest supporters is my wonderful husband, Chris. We met through, but not at, a speed dating event in Baltimore. There were about 25 women and 25 men, and we were randomly matched with 8 people for about 8 minutes each. Chris and I were never actually paired up at the event, although I remembered seeing the geeky guy, as I affectionately refer to him, in the corner, which is still a joke between us. After the event, though, we got in contact, and after about 1 month of talking on the phone, we met in Annapolis, basically a blind date. I was terrified, and I almost canceled that morning. But Chris had sent me a really sweet email telling me how much he was looking forward to it, so I couldn't cancel without feeling like a jerk. We had dinner and walked down to the wharf. It was the best date I had ever had. In October of 2006, after 2 years of dating, Chris planned a trip to a bed and breakfast in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, Amish country, one of our favorite places to go. We had a nice dinner, but Chris seemed very nervous, and I had no idea why. When we got back to our room, he went out on the balcony and asked me to come outside. It was very cold, and I was already getting ready for bed, so I resisted. I finally relented, and there was a full moon and a cute little horse and buggy riding by. Apparently, he had previously told me that on the next full moon, he would propose. I had completely forgotten. So he got down on one knee and proposed. I was shocked and just stood there with my mouth open, looking at the beautiful ring. He finally asked, "So, is that a yes?" And I said, "Yes, of course." So cute. We were married on October 14th, 2007, on the beach at Harrington on the Bay in Rosehaven, Maryland, on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay. The weather was perfect and the ceremony was beautiful, short and sweet, but very meaningful. It was a relatively small wedding, but it was still a lot of work to plan. One of my favorite parts of our wedding was that 2 of my closest friends read a poem by my favorite poet, Pablo Neruda in Spanish and English. Since I'm a Spanish linguist and many of my friends are Spanish speakers, that was very special to me. I'll read you the English version. Maybe nothingness is to be without your presence, without you moving, slicing the noon like a blue flower, without you walking later through the fog and the cobbles, without the light you carry in your hand, golden, which maybe others will not see, which maybe no one knew was growing like the red beginnings of a rose. In short, without your presence, without your coming suddenly, incitingly to know my life, gust of a rosebush, wheat of wind. Since then, I am because you are. Since then, you are, I am, we are. And through love, I will be, you will be, will be. Chris and I love to travel, and we took a honeymoon Mediterranean cruise that left from Barcelona, which we absolutely loved. The best part was that my host family from when I was a high school exchange student in Spain back in 1985-86 flew up from the Canary Islands to see us before our cruise. I hadn't seen them for 18 years. Even though he doesn't speak Spanish, Chris had a blast. On the cruise, we visited Nice, Rome, Florence, Pompeii, and Palermo. Florence was our favorite by far. We fell in love with the architecture and the wine. We are wine lovers, so we had a few bottles sent back home, one of which we uncorked on our first anniversary. Chris and I do not have any children ourselves, but between us, we have 8 nieces and nephews and 6 grandnieces and nephews. Our oldest nephew, my sister's son, and his wife had a baby on November 11th, 2020, which is super exciting. Capri is adorable. One of the hardest things about Turner syndrome, I think, is infertility, which used to bother me a lot when I was younger. What would I tell my future husband? What if he really wanted kids? Luckily, neither my husband nor I had a strong desire to have children, and we love our quiet home and our 3 cats, Whiskey, Stoli, and Sambuca. Of course, marriage is not all puppy dogs and rainbows. My husband and I have very different ideas of organization and neatness, so sometimes that is frustrating. He is happy putting things back wherever they land, as long as they are in the right general area. So I will find beer in the vegetable drawer in the refrigerator. I am very organized and like to put things back where I can find them easily the next time. Chris and I also communicate very differently. I am a low context communicator. I just want to get to the bottom line and stick to the facts, very concrete. He, on the other hand, is a high context communicator. He likes to tell a story, evaluate the whole context, and consider all of the possibilities. Sometimes I get impatient, but recognizing our different communication styles helps. Marriage requires a lot of compromise, and we have gotten better at it over the years. Chris and I have very different tastes when it comes to television, movies, etc. I love cheesy reality shows and horror and indie movies, and he loves educational or scientific shows and sci-fi and action movies. We can almost never agree on a movie to watch, so we have agreed to alternate. One time he picks and the next time I do. We have also grown a lot during our marriage, both as individuals and as a team. I tend to be high-strung and anxious, and Chris usually goes with the flow. He has taught me to lower my radar, and I have hopefully taught him to raise his. This balances us out. He can help me be more calm, and I can let him know when maybe he needs to pay more attention to something. One of the ways Turner syndrome has affected my marriage is in our different physical abilities. My husband is pretty tall, about 5'11". I am 5'4", although he likes to remind me I'm actually 5'3¾". So I often need his help to reach things while shopping, cooking, etc. It has become an inside joke, and he teases me about it. He bought me a pickup stick so I can reach things in the cabinets and closets, which is actually really helpful. I recently found my initial karyotype study from 1988, and I had my first visit with a geneticist since then at Johns Hopkins. I will be having another karyotype study, which should be interesting since the technology has changed a lot since the 80s. I was diagnosed with Mosaic Turner syndrome, and this drawing is how I remember my karyotype. In some cells, I had one X, and in some, I had a marker that they could not identify. They consulted with the University of Florida in Gainesville, where they determined it was not a Y marker, which can cause other issues. This is an image I created of how I see my mosaic karyotype. Some cells have one X and some have an X and a marker. I love mosaics, so I included that background to represent the multifaceted nature of Turner syndrome, both in the karyotype and in the lives of patients with the condition. Every patient with Turner syndrome is different, with different physical, mental, and emotional manifestations. For me, it is important to remember that we are so much more than our diagnosis. We can have full and happy lives, whatever that means for us. We can have families if we so choose. We can reach our educational and professional goals. Nothing can stop us. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my story. Prior to this past year, I had never talked about Turner syndrome or met anyone else with the condition. And it has been enlightening and liberating to me to meet other people who have some of the same issues and to be able to give back through the Turner Syndrome Foundation.
I want to share a few things that I have learned while living with Turner syndrome, a medical condition that can cause short stature, infertility, hypothyroidism, webbing of the neck, and swelling of the hands and feet, as well as problems with the heart and kidneys. Sounds like fun, right? When I was younger, I thought that having a medical condition like Turner syndrome made me so very much different from other people. I hated the scars on my neck from the surgery that corrected the webbing. I hated the swelling in my feet and left hand. I hated being short. I described myself as short for my age for as long as I could. But I have learned that we are all a lot more alike than we are different, even with the things that sometimes separate us, such as our experiences, just different abilities, gender, and or race. There is so much more that we have in common. I have learned to feel less separated and different from other people. I have learned to appreciate both my differences and those things that I share in common with others. I have learned the importance of accepting and loving who you are. That has been a journey. When I was younger, I thought more about the deficits and difficulties presented by having Turner syndrome. I felt like I was a mistake or that there was something uniquely flawed about me. But I have learned that that is not true. First of all, we are all flawed. Again, we have a lot more in common than separates us. We are all flawed in some way, and I am no more flawed than anyone else. We are also all amazing and perfect in our own way. I have learned to better appreciate myself and others as I have grown older. I have learned that it is not our weaknesses and flaws that define us. Instead, we are defined by our strength and tenacity as we face the challenges which life presents to each of us. I have learned that we all have a story to tell. Must I put these dreams aside like a blind warrior with a double-edged sword, a cripple boy's idea of a knight? It is those things left unresolved about which we make no peace that become our eyes, our arms and legs, our identity. Don't let the things that you struggle with become your identity. Make peace with all aspects of who you are. Appreciate your gifts. Share your gifts with others.